not gonna lie, I decided to podcast today because I really liked how my hair looked. And when I'm staying at home now, not going to the salon, I need somebody to see it. Hey there, Fiber Junkies! Welcome back to The Color Cauldron. I'm Johanna, the owner and dyer behind Potion Yarns and host of this podcast. If you are a new viewer, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you for being here and being part of our fiber family. We love to talk about knitting, crochet, spinning, all things fiber arts, mostly knitting admittedly, but we also talk about other fiber arts on this podcast as well. However, we like to also go a little bit deeper sometimes, and we like to talk about not only creating magic in the things that we make with our hands, like knitting a sweater or spinning a beautiful yarn, but also taking those same lessons and skills that we learn in crafting and applying them to how to create the life that we desire. So whether that is learning how to let go of resentment and empower yourself with taking responsibility and taking a more positive outlook on the world, learning how to not be so hard on yourself and give yourself some grace, learning how to say I'm sorry and make things better to the people you've offended, all these different things we've talked about on the podcast and will continue to talk about from time to time. But we also just like to have fun and talk about what we've been working on. And that's what we're going to do today. Today I'm so excited. I have some finished objects to show you. Oh, I feel like I haven't had anything finished for a while, and so I'm really, really excited to finally get to show you guys some finished objects. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit the notification bell so you do not miss an episode, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Please, please, please share this video. Share it in your knitting groups on Facebook. Share it with your friends who like to knit. Tell all your friends at your knitting club or your fiber group about the Color Cauldron and this podcast so that we can get more and more viewers and have a big, fun, crazy party here on the podcast. It is a lot of fun, and I love doing videos. I like showing off what I'm knitting and working on, but I also really like doing videos like the holiday knits that we just recently did, where we did top 10 reasons why you should make handmade gifts for the holidays and 10 tips to make it less stressful when you are giving handmade gifts, etc. I love doing those kinds of videos for you as well. So the more people we have giving me great ideas and joining in on the fun, the better. I have a couple bigger projects that I started working on months ago, and then they kind of went into timeout for a while. So I finally got those out and recently finished working on two big garments that I was starting back in like January, February, sometime around there. Worked on for a while, then put down. I've showed them on the podcast before, put them down, didn't work on them for a while, and recently picked back up and finally finished. So let me show them to you. I was going to be wearing one of them today, and then instead I decided to wear this beautiful sweater that I made a while back. This is the Hold Sway tunic. It has this really cool asymmetric hem, and this is my fairy wing fingering, which is merino and silk in the Bee Stung Lips colorway, which hasn't been in stock for a little bit, but is probably going to be coming back sometime this winter or early spring. It's from my 1920s flapper collection, and it's a really fabulous like pinky red with a little glaze of purple fuchsia. It's really fun. But I did this as a test knit for the designer who did the Hold Sway cardigan like a year, 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. And it was great. We talked about it on the podcast. So if you go back to like 2017 podcasts, or 2018 podcasts, I think, if you go back to my 2018 podcast, you'll see some of the in-process versions of this sweater, and I'm loving that I can still get it on over the baby bump, because that is definitely not the case with some of my hand knits, as well as most of my other clothes. But I finished my Boxy Chevrons. So this is what I was going to be wearing. However, I did not get the podcast filmed the other day when I was wearing it, and so I had to do it today, and I happened to be wearing this sweater instead. But I still wanted to show you what I finished. This is the first Boxy sweater I've ever knit, which is basically just a sweater that looks like a big, huge square. There's no like real fitted shaping or anything through it, except through the arms on this one. I have never knit or worn something quite this voluminous before, because being a really short, petite woman, I tend to feel like anything that boxy would just swim on me and I would look like a little kid or like a pinhead or something. So I didn't want to make anything quite this boxy, but I kept seeing this pattern or similar styles on people and hearing how like comfy and flattering it was and how great it was. And so I had decided that I was going to knit this, especially because I saw the designer, who is Susanne Sommers, or Sosu Knits on Ravelry. I love, love, love her shawl patterns, and I knit several of her patterns before, and I saw that she had this top, this boxy top, and I was like, that is so stinking cute. And she's kind of small-ish. I don't know how like tall she is actually, but she always looks kind of smallish in her pictures to me, and she looked great in it. So I was like, if she can do it, I can do it, right? Like, I'm gonna try it. So I went ahead and knit this, and I used the Seductress sock, which is my sparkle sock, on the black part up here in the colorway Samhain, and then, or Savin, depending on how you say it. Oops, I need to tuck that little end in. I just found an end that I didn't finish weaving in, whoopsies. And then the body, I used my Dragonfly BFL sock base, which is Blueface Luster and nylon. And this is a colorway that I'm discontinuing, so you might want to scurry over to my shop and pick it up if you like it. It's called April in Paris, and it's this kind of peachy pink, soft pastel background with all these really bright neon and funky colored speckles over the top. And I really love it because it looks different in different lighting. I have kind of a brighter light on right now, so I don't know what you guys can see on your camera, but usually under brighter lights, I see the neon yellow speckles. They like pop to the forefront and it looks like really yellow. And so when I was knitting it, I actually was under some really bright lights early on in the body, and I was like, oh my God, it's too yellow. But I'm glad I stuck with it, because under more normal lights where they're not super, super bright, just kind of like basic indoor building light, or even like low dim light, or like outside at twilight or something, the peachy pink background really springs to the forefront, and it looks very rosy and soft and pretty, and that yellow kind of recedes and calms down quite a bit. So depending on what lights you're under, the color really shifts a lot, and I really love that. But I love this color. It looks great. It feels great. I've worn it a couple times already over Baby Bump. And the front, it has an asymmetric hemline as well, so it's a little bit higher in the front, and then it kind of like comes down in the back. And so right now on Pregnant Joe, the front part is not quite long enough to cover the entire baby bump. It's really close, but there's a little bit of skin showing at the bottom. So I mostly just wear it around the house right now, but I think earlier in my pregnancy it would have covered completely. And I love that after I'm done being pregnant, I will still be able to wear it as just kind of a drapey, awesome slouchy top with like leggings or skinny jeans or whatever. I do have a video of me wearing this so you can see how it drapes a little bit better on my Instagram and Facebook. You might have to scroll back about a week ago or so, because I did an IGTV video on Instagram and I posted to my Facebook as well. So it's just a short little video, and I show that off in there, and you can kind of see how it looks on and how it drapes. And I got a lot of compliments on that video. People were like, oh my gosh, I love the Boxy, it looks so great. So that is Boxy Chevrons, and I will put that pattern name below. I don't know where you can purchase it off of Ravelry. I purchased that on Ravelry a long time ago and finally got around to knitting it this year. But I know some of you guys don't use Ravelry anymore, and so I try to just give you guys the pattern information, and you can go out and look for it yourself. I do not know where else you can buy it, if anywhere, but it is a great, great pattern, so I highly recommend it. Susanne Sommers is an excellent designer. I love her stuff. The next thing that I finished is another huge project that went into timeout for a long time, and that is my Shusui Shrug. This monster, this beast over here, took me freaking forever. It is another Susanne Sommers pattern, and it's another big slouchy, drapey, awesome. I'm going to put it on so you can kind of see how it goes. This thing, let me tell you, this thing is awesome, but I almost didn't finish it because it was starting to get to be a little much. It's very, it's really not that difficult because it's just a panels of garter interspersed with panels of basic brioche stitch, and you do have to do some increases. So it's a little bit more than just flat knitting brioche because you do have to do the increases, but they're really, really easy basic increases, and you don't do any like lace or anything more intricate with the brioche. So that's it, and it makes it reversible because it's garter stitch and brioche. So I love, love, love that it's reversible. I love that it's kind of like, I don't know if you can see this, but it's like a shawl that she added sleeves to, so it's kind of like half shawl, half cardigan, and I love, love, love that. So I used a couple different colors. She only knit hers in 2 colors in the pattern. I had a bunch of single skeins in my stash I wanted to use up, so I knit mine in like 3 or 4 colors. Technically 3 on the body, but 4 if you count the sleeves. I finished off with a little bit of other color because I'd seen some people who had made this sweater online had posted it with contrast color sleeves, and I thought that was a really cool idea, so I decided to do that as well. Plus it was using up some scrap yarn that I had from another project that was just sitting around. So the main color on the front, this yellowy gold color with speckles, comes from Vocabulary Yarns, and it's called Sorry. It's their superwash Blueface Luster and nylon base, a 2-ply base, and I bought that last November and absolutely love the color. It's so fun. It looks like confetti or something. On the back side at the top, I used one of my club yarns from last year, so you can't get this yarn anymore in the shop because it was a limited edition, but I had a single skein left over that I kept for myself called Aquarius, and it's basically just different shades of aqua, teal, and white, and was just kind of a basic sock yarn. I really love how it looks with the sari. I think it looks really fun. At the bottom, on the wrong side here, I have this brown and with a few black speckles on it, different shades of brown, this really nice pretty skein from Barnyard Knits, and I'm so sorry, I forget the name. I think it's called like Brown Bear or something about a bear, but it's from Barnyard Knits, and I really liked how it kind of grounded the brighter, crazier colors and gave it a really nice little faded look. So that's what I'm using there. And then the cuffs, I finished off with a little bit of my hand-dyed yarn. This is the Banshee fingering base, which is just a superwash merino fingering, and it is the Vintage Vixen colorway. So I just had like a little bit left over from a project, and I was trying to use it up, and I liked how it kind of added a bright little pop of pink to it to kind of just add extra interest or whatever. So I'm a little toasty in multiple sweaters, so I'm going to take this back off. I just wanted to show you how like easy and fun it is to wear. It is great for just like relaxing around the house, at home, snuggling on a rainy day with your knitting and some tea. It's going to be amazing this winter when I just need a little like shawl around the house, but I don't want to have a shawl that keeps falling off my shoulders. The main reason I wanted to knit this was because it was a shawl combined with a cardigan, so it stays on your shoulders, both due to the shaping that she creates as well as the sleeves that she creates to kind of keep those on your wrists. So it's really great for like moving around the house or even taking out somewhere because it won't slip off constantly, but you also don't need to anchor it with a shawl pin. I have had mixed results with shawl pins in the past, so I don't always love to use them because sometimes they don't stay on as well or they snag my knitting. So I love that this one stays on without the need for a shawl pin, although you can close it with one in the front if you don't like it swinging open. So those are my 2 big finished objects. I have one more that I wanted to show you today, and this one does not have the ends woven in. I just finished blocking it, but I have not gotten the ends woven in yet. So that is something I get to do later this week. But this is my shawl that I showed on the podcast a couple weeks ago. And I will put the pattern name below because I can't pronounce it. It's really difficult. But this is a free pattern. And I will put a link to where you can find that free below as well. You do not need a Ravelry account to get it for free. It is on Ravelry, but if you don't have one, I will put the link below where you can just go directly to the site and pick it up. This is designed by the designer who goes by Frenchie as a nickname, but her name is Françoise, and her company is Aroha Knits. She created this free pattern using 2 different colors of yarn, and I love that you can use a variegated or speckled yarn for it because it's a fairly simple stitch, and then you ground it with a solid or a semi-solid. So these skeins came from my shop. This colorway up here is called Flagrant Disobedience, and it is a stunning skein. I'm gonna have to dye up some more of this, I think, because it's just so much fun. It just looks like a party in a skein. And it was the first one I did, trying out a new dyeing technique I did a few months ago, which I have now used for several of my colorways that are selling great. This was kind of the guinea pigs colorway batch, and it turned out so fabulous that I decided to make this new technique one of my regular techniques that I use every now and then. And I'm really going to need to dye up some more of this because my first batch is sold out. And I love it. I think it looks really great. And I paired it for the lace sections with one of my oopsie skeins that came from the Mad Science Lab of my shop called Dark Vixen. It was vintage Vixen, but it got a little too much purple, and so it turned into a deeper, more purpley raspberry shade than the normal kind of wine pink color. And still absolutely stunning and gorgeous, but it was not the kind of thing that I could replicate because I didn't take notes on it or write down what I did, and it was something where I don't think that I could recreate it even if I had written it down, because it just kind of had to do with, it was just a happy accident and several things combined all at once to create this beautiful accident. So I only had one batch of those. There are still, like, I think 1 or 2 skeins left in the shop, so hurry on over and pick it up because this is a never to be repeated colorway. But I had to snag one for myself because they were so beautiful, and these two colors look so great together. I love this shawl because it's a crescent shape, which is much easier for wrapping around and staying on, like I was just talking about. I have trouble with shawl pins, so I like ones that are long enough and big enough that they wrap around and they'll stay put. There's multiple ways you can wrap it, and like I said, I love the stitch pattern. It's super simple stockinette base, and there's just some really, really simple little, there's a simple stitch pattern. It's pretty easy. It does have lace in it, so brand new beginner knitters may not want to take this on, although who am I to tell you what you can do and what you can't? I know a lot of people that started on a lace project or a cable project and just didn't realize that it was harder than normal knitting, and they saw something they liked and they just went for it and they did it, and they're great. So don't let anyone tell you something is out of your range. If you want to do it, you can definitely do it. But for you experienced lace knitters, this will be a walk in the park because the lace is not that difficult, and it's really, really gorgeous shawl, and I can't wait to get those ends woven in so I can actually wear it. So those are my finished objects. I am working on a couple of different things. Actually, I have several things on the needles right now, including a pair of vanilla socks that I'm not going to bother to show you that I just cast on, just to have something on the go in my purse, because everything else I'm knitting right now is kind of big. So it's a little bit harder to take along with me. I am still working on a baby blanket for my son that I have shown on the podcast before, using some Knit Pick Swish, which is just a superwash merino wool. And it's this eggplant colorway, just kind of a nice deep purple, and I'm knitting like a cable-y blanket with fisherman's rib. It's really, really pretty, but it's getting to be a huge beast, and I've put it down for several weeks and haven't been working on it because I got really sick of it a couple months ago. I just started it a couple months ago, so about a month ago I got sick of it and I just put it away and couldn't handle it. I ran out of yarn, so I had to order more from Knit Picks. I got the replacement yarn and still couldn't bring myself to cast on right away because I was like, ugh. Or to pick back up where it was. I guess it was already cast on, but it's about 2/3 of the way done. I think I'm actually going to shorten the pattern from what it originally was supposed to be because it's turning out to be much bigger than I'd anticipated, and I don't feel like I need it to be that huge to be just a baby blanket, and I'm running out of steam. I already ran out of yarn. I'm just not enjoying it anymore, you guys. And I feel terrible about that because I feel like it's for my baby. I should be loving it. I should be loving every stitch and putting all this love and care into it. And instead it's getting to the point where I'm like, I mean, this kid is just gonna puke on it. It's not like he's even gonna know, right? Like, it's not gonna be like heirloom quality or anything probably. And like, I'm kind of over it. And I really just kind of want to work on my personal projects because I have more fun knitting sweaters and shawls, and I do want to knit a baby sweater, but I haven't gotten around to it yet for him, partly because I'm like, I'm not sure what size to make because I have no idea how big he'll be and like how quickly he'll grow and things, and I just feel a little bit overwhelmed at the thought of knitting him a sweater he might never wear. But I think I'm gonna try to cast on a cute little baby sweater. I want something like a little cardigan that's kind of like a grandpa style vintagey cardigan thing because I think those are adorable on little boys. So I'm probably gonna do something like that, but yeah, he will probably be here before I get that done, maybe even before I get it cast on. So we'll see. But I am still working on the baby blanket, but I don't even want to go into it right now, so we're just gonna move on to my selfish projects. So this project that I'm working on, I don't believe I've showed this on the podcast, but I have showed it on my social media. So if you are following me on Instagram or Facebook, you will probably have already seen this. This is a pattern that I did as a collaboration. Well, I didn't do the pattern, but I did a collaboration with the designer of the pattern this over the summer, and she just released it September 20th. This is the South Alamo Street Shawl. It's mosaic knitting, so it's color work, but you're only carrying one color for each row. You only have to worry about one color per row, and every 2 rows you switch colors. It's really easy except for the garter stitch sections where you knit with one color for a while. But for the colorwork sections, you're just going back and forth between 2 colors, but just one at a time. So you don't have to strand anything, carry 2 yarns at once, anything like that. All you have to do is know how to knit garter stitch and do slip stitches. That's it. That's literally all it is. People looked at this shawl when it came out and were like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. But a lot of people said to me, I'm just not very good with color work. I'm just not a very experienced knitter. That scares me. I can't do it. So I decided to cast one on and show you guys how easy it is. Plus, I freaking love the design that Ashley came up with. The designer is Ashley of Wanderlust Fiber Arts. I will put a link to her shop below. She has tons of amazing patterns, but she specializes in these mosaic patterns where you do slip stitch knitting to create this fabulous intricate color work. And she does a lot of these really geometric motifs, which are super duper fun. So this colorway that I am using was a kit that I had in my shop. I believe this particular colorway might be sold out, but I'm probably gonna put some more back in the shop because I have all of these colors right now in stock. So I'll probably create a few more kits. If you are interested, let me know. If you don't see them in the shop, let me know if and I may be able to get you one. But there are several other color combos. The original she did in my yarn was very like hot pink and peachy speckles and black. It's really, really graphic, but really, really gorgeous. So I have those kits in the shop, and then I've got several other color options. For people who don't like pink, I've got like greens and blacks or teals. For people who do like pink, but something more subtle than neon, I've got some other like roses and different colors like that. So I've got like 7 different color combos, or you can put together your own because the pattern is available as a download by itself on my shop as well. You can find it under accessories and extras in the sidebar menu of my shop. I will put a link to the pattern below also so that you can purchase that if you want. But yeah, it's really, really gorgeous. I love it. So the colorways that I'm using up here, color 1 is called Penelope Tree. It's a white background with kind of yellowy, springy green and purple and pink speckles. And then we go into Lady Absinthe, which if you've been around for a while, you know this is one of my favorite colors that I dye for myself. It's like a vivid neon chartreusey green. It's so stunning. It's like lime. It's fabulous. I love it, love it, love it. And then my third color is Coven, which is new this summer and fall. I brought out this new color called Coven, which is like a deep, rich burgundy tonal. Penelope Tree and Coven in mine are both on the Sparkle Seductress base, but the kits I have in my shop, there's usually only 1 sparkle yarn. Or like I said, you can just purchase the pattern separately and then go to my ready to ship yarns and put together your own color combo. If you are going to do that though, and you're not going to buy a pre-made kit, I will say you do want to make sure you have plenty of contrast between your 3 yarns. So think of it as like dark, medium, and light. You should be able to see the contrast pretty well between the 3. If you get colors that are too close together, you won't be able to see the intricate color shifts on the geometric motif. So you really want to make sure you do that. This pattern can be used with speckled yarns. I would say speckled or tonals only. Variegated yarns are going to be too busy for this kind of a colorway in my opinion. Or for the stitch patterns, I mean, it's just going to get lost because you're moving colors so quickly. You don't want to have a lot of busy yarn with this busy of a pattern. So I would stick to solids or semi-solids or speckles like I've done. But I love it. It's going really, really well. It's got very unique construction. So I highly recommend that if you are going to create this pattern and you purchase the pattern, read through the pattern first before you cast on and start knitting. I am the queen of ignoring that instruction when everyone's like, you should always read through the pattern to understand the construction before you begin knitting. I'm always like, yeah, whatever. I'm an advanced knitter. I know what I'm doing. And I just jump right in because I'm excited and I want to start my pattern. Do not do that with this shawl. I glanced through the pattern, but I didn't read everything. I read about half of it and was like, I get the gist, and went back and started to cast on. And then I got about halfway through and had a panic attack because I thought I'd done something really, really wrong. And I had to go back through and reread from the beginning the pattern all the way to the end twice to understand the construction. And then I was like, oh, okay, thank God I did not do it wrong. I am doing it correctly. But I had a panic attack that I had just wasted like over half of what I had done already was going to have to be ripped out and reknit because I thought I did it wrong. And so I would highly recommend reading through it before you cast on, just to save yourself the panic. Even if you do it right like I did, it was really miserable there for about 20 minutes when I thought I'd done something wrong, and my stomach got that sick feeling when I was like, I'm gonna have to rip out tons of this. So save yourself the stress and just read through it. It will really help. But it's really cool construction. When you see how she created it, my mind is like blown. How does her brain work like that? I don't know. It's amazing. I'm jealous. My brain doesn't work like that. But I can follow along to patterns that other people have written, so that's what I stick to. Okay, I know this is going to be a long video, but I have one more project I cannot wait to show you. I'm so excited because you guys, I finally cast on a new Fair Isle sweater. I'm so happy. I love, 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 love stranded knitting. It is probably one of my favorite, if not my very favorite technique to do in knitting. I love Fair Isle sweaters. I love stranded patterns. And I love that there's a lot of patterns that have a yoke and then just a plain stockinette body. It's a lot less yarn and work and stress and goes quicker, but I really like the all over patterns. I like the intricate, the hard stuff. And I did my very first steek back in November of 2017, so 2 years ago now. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I had always wanted to do a steek and just never got around to it, and I finally did it in 2017. It was a little intense. I did have to have a stiff drink beforehand, but not too much that I was gonna make a mistake. And then after I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, that was the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. That's amazing. I need to do steeks all the time. And I haven't done one since. I was meant to do one right away, and I just never got around to it. So I decided that this fall, when I'm home on maternity leave, was a great time to cast on a new Fair Isle sweater, and specifically to do a steek. So that's what I'm doing. I found a pattern called Hortensia. That is the pattern name, Hortensia Jumper, and I will put the pattern designer's name below with her pattern so you can look it up. But this is how far I've gotten, which is actually pretty far because this is on size 2.5 needles. I had to order size 2.5 needles because I didn't even have any on hand. I had 2s and 3s, and I did a swatch in the size 2. Look at me, good girl, doing my swatch in the round. And it was way too small, so I had to go up, but the 3 was too big. So I ended up ordering the 2.5, and it was perfect. I did another like mini swatch. I realized, I know, for a lot of you guys that are real sticklers for the rules, y'all are gonna give me trouble because this isn't a big enough swatch. I know, but I was just testing colors and trying to get the feel for, I'd already swatched a couple times and I was over it by this point. And this looks a lot better. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. Really excited. I'm having so much fun with it. I am using Knit Picks palette yarn, which is their 100% Highland wool. It's a non-superwash, which is really essential for steeking in my opinion. And so I had to substitute all the colors because the original pattern is knit in Jamieson and Smith Spindrift, which is the traditional Highland wool that most Fair Isle knitters like to work with. The original pattern is a little bit more muted colors. I tried to stay in the same color families that she did. I made a few different choices, like adding in more of a bluish green to a couple of the colors, or adding in like doing more of like a darker purple instead of like a cream on one color or something like that. But other than that, I stayed in the same color families or categories, like where she had pinks, I went with pinks. Where she had greens, I went with greens usually. But it wasn't the same, and I didn't like the muted colors that she used in hers. It was pretty, but I wouldn't ever wear something that muted. So I made a few creative decisions to, okay, I stick with pinks, but instead of like kind of a medium soft pink, I'm going to jump up to like a brighter pink, more like Barbie pink, or like a really deep wine pink or something. So mine is going to be a lot more vivid of colors, but I love it so much, you guys. So I haven't gotten super far, so it doesn't look like a ton yet, but it basically, the Hortensia was designed it was inspired by the flowers, I think she said hyacinths and pansies maybe, but it was the flowers in her garden. And so it's just got these little tiny floral motifs all over it, plus little geometric motifs to kind of break them up. And the whole thing is patterned all over. And then there are steeks, it's a pullover, and there's steeks for the sleeves. So I'm really, really excited. Cannot wait to get farther on this, and I'm so glad I finally got to cast it on. And this is why I didn't want to work on my baby sweater, and why I still don't want to, or my baby blanket, and I still don't want to work on my baby blanket, because I love this. It's so fun. So this is what I am enjoying. I'm having a ton of fun with that. And I love, love, love Knit Picks palette yarn for steeking and for Fair Isle. I've knit stranded patterns with it that didn't require steeks, and I have knit, my one steek that I did was all done in Knit Picks palette before, and it was phenomenal. So I highly recommend, if you are into stranded knitting or you want to try stranded knitting and you are on a budget and traditional Highland wools from like Jamieson and Smith or some of those other companies are out of the price range for you, definitely look at Knit Picks, because it's a budget yarn. It's super, super fabulous for color work. They have over 150 shades, so you can get like pretty much any color that you want. It really, really does substitute well for Jamieson and Smith. Now, I don't think Jamieson and Smith is super crazy expensive, but they come in smaller put-ups, so you'd need 2 balls of the Spindrift to equal 1 ball of the palette yarn, which is another reason that it's so economical, because full price, a palette skein is $3.49, and it's 231 yards. So like all of the colors that I'm using for my Hortensia sweater, I only needed 1 ball. A couple of them I bought an extra one just to be on the safe side, and it'll go into my palette, my stash of palette yarn, which I'm keeping a whole drawer full of palette yarn in various colors for Fair Isle projects. And so I only needed 1 ball of each color, even the main color. Whereas with the Spindrift, I would have had to order 2 on some colors. And so even though it's not that much more expensive per ball, you also need more balls to equal the yardage, if that makes sense. So it's a great budget option, and like I said, I love that they have more saturated colors. The Jamieson and Smith is a fabulous traditional yarn. It's got a really great heathered look, and they have really unique heathered blends. I would love, 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 it is on my bucket list to try Jamieson and Smith for a Fair Isle project in the future. However, after looking at the colors and the cost and everything else, I decided to go with Knit Picks for this sweater because I wanted it to be punchier and brighter, and I really wanted to save some money with baby coming and everything. And so this was kind of a special, just fun splurge for me project, but I'm so glad I did it because I'm having a blast and really excited. We will definitely have to do a steek video when it comes time to cut the steeks. We'll have to do that on the podcast so you guys can watch. Alright, so that's all I've been really working on other than baby blanket and vanilla socks, and I've got a couple other things that I'm getting ready to cast on as far as like I'm dyeing yarn for some specific projects. I'm like going through the stash trying to figure out what I'm going to be making, but that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now, which that's plenty. But I hope you guys are having a great rest of your day. It is now time to cast off. Love you.